luck.
You're now watching two old farts making noises.
Joe, do you want to know why some businesses succeed and some businesses fail? Why some businesses grow and some businesses don't? That's what this show is all about. Business, business, business. Let me just say that whoever the announcer is for that intro, magnificent.
We're not sure who that is. But
Right.
Magnificent and modest.
Yeah.
I bet he's very modest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
well, welcome back, everyone, to the Lost Dollar Business Club. Here we
Yeah.
are again with our various guests, our various hosts.
Yep.
And
Yeah. All of whom are modest.
all of them. Yes, that's right. All of them.
Wait, and so today's topics we have, what do we have? There's one that I really can't wait to get to. But anyway, what are the four that we're going to try to cover in the next 40 minutes?
Yeah, the next 40 minutes, we're going to cover some of the social conversations that companies are having by doing things like erasing religious figures from advertisements and Anheuser-Busch with their transgender support. So, and maybe the backlash from that. So there's a lot to think about in terms of how companies play into social discussions. And we'll also get into Twitter becoming X. So total rebrand and what that means for X and what that means for even the rebranding and the auctioning of all their good stuff. The old Twitter stuff is being auctioned off.
Nice. And I think one colleague of ours wanted to talk about shitty colleagues. So I'm assuming we're going to touch on that a little bit because apparently there's a football team that kicked somebody's football team's Twickus, and apparently there's going to be a little there's a little.
I don't know who.
Are they owned? Are they both owned by the Saudis?
Probably.
No,
that's another dialogue for another show.
I don't know what football team you're talking about because.
Yeah. Okay. I'm sure we'll get
the Lionesses haven't played yet, so.
Okay.
The Lionesses.
Here we go. All right.
Yeah.
So we'll get into that.
The first thing that happened, I think David showed this advertisement that Porsche did an advertisement in Lisbon, and in the original version of the advertisement, they removed the Jesus Christ statue, the famous Jesus Christ statue.
Oh, in Brazil.
From the advertisement in Brazil, that's right.
Okay.
Yeah. And from the advertisement, and so the question is, they backtracked. They said it was a big mistake, and then they released it again. They released it again with Jesus Christ in the. But all they said was that it was a mistake. What do you guys think about that?
Well, I have a question.
No.
Why would they do that anyway? Because
remove it or put it in?
No.
Take it out.
They took out the statue has a base and it has the Christ, but they took it out, and people noticed that, and so they're like, what you doing? And so they backtracked. There is some context that a lot of companies do take out controversial things from their ads so that it doesn't create controversy. But in this case, at the stage of where we are in general, taking it out actually created the controversy.
Well, I think the biggest controversy is, why does anybody in their marketing department not know that most Muslims don't drink alcohol? So what difference does that make? So who
We're talking about Porsche.
Are you talking about Porsche?
We're talking about Porsche.
That's a car. That's a car. No, that's a car, David. Porsche is a car. The Nazis built it. Then that's the Nazi car.
I thought you were talking about beer.
No, that's the next thing. Right now, we're talking about the car.
Oh, the car.
Yeah, Porsche removed Jesus Christ from their advertisement.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, first of all,
you can't get in there with a cross. There's no space. It's like
I know. Well, if you get the Carrera that has the top, the convertible one, you can get in with a cross. By the way, but here's my thing. Who cares? Like, what do we care that they removed the statue or didn't remove the statue? I mean, if you're there,
Well,
you're
we must
taking a
care.
pretty
If not, we
picture.
wouldn't be talking about it.
No, because we become a society of woke pussies. I don't give a shit either way. But where problem
Right.
is that all of a sudden it's like, oh, they removed the statue. They have nobody cares. So let me ask you this: why isn't there a Porsche up against? Because most of the guys I know are Jewish that own Porsches. They want to own a Nazi mobile. That's fine. But why don't they have the Porsche up against? I don't see it up against the Great Wall in Israel. We should be. We should be now. I mean, I can't drive a Porsche because of that.
I,
It's ridiculous.
I
It's a
think it's
car.
I think it's probably because the Star of David fits in there a little bit better.
Or we do. We
So
wear it
that's
on our
not
neck.
Yes.
Yeah.
so that's not an issue. But everybody's
Well,
sort of been bearing their proverbial cross. I mean, but still, come on,
Well,
guys.
do you think it's
What's the matter?
do you think it comes from the anti-religious movement? I mean, does it come from a
No, it comes from
backlash of people who are totally against religion and trying to erase religion versus those who
comes
are
from stupidity for people in the marketing department who have no idea what they're doing.
could very well be.
Unless,
but
of
he's
course,
talking about
the sales for the Porsche was so crap anyway that they
no.
thought, well, let's make a
It
controversial
no.
advert so we can sell a few more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Porsche. There's a backlog to get a Porsche. If you want any like the GT3s that just came out, you're backlogged. People are waiting and
Well,
they'll pay.
in the
if you,
US, then.
okay, yeah, in the US, Porsches are backlogged and they're also paying over sticker, which to me is also stupid. But anyway,
Yeah.
I think an ad is an ad. It's kind of like when they had the Cordoba, the Chrysler Cordoba with its Corinthian leather, and nobody checked what Corinthian meant. And I think it was either Portuguese or Spanish, and it meant like ass. So when Ricardo Montalban was talking about this Corinthian leather, and whatever country it was, he was talking about when you slide into the Corinthian leather, basically it translated, you're going to slide into this ass. So what happens is that when people advertise or an advertising department, what they don't realize is that there's a whole world out there of 8 billion people with about 10,000 different languages. And if you don't, so they made a mistake. And if putting the Christ statue in, it's just a statue. It's like when they have a Porsche that's in front of a horse. I don't go, oh my God, you're in front of a horse. You took it out. You left it. I don't care. If they have it in front of the Met, I don't care. If they have it in front of the jet, I don't care.
It's like, why would you remove it in the first place? Why would you go through that extra effort
don't know,
to
maybe,
remove it, or just don't put it in the shot in the first place?
Wasn't there something with the World Cup or something in Brazil that somebody owns the rights to that, and that's the reason why
statue?
they didn't? Yeah, or the image rights. And that's why they didn't use it in a lot of promo. That may well be that they didn't own the image rights to it. Well, just throw it into the group. Just throw it into the group.
Yeah, I think they just, it was very brief, but
very brief. But somebody on X, on Twitter, saw it and then reposted. Of all places.
Well, I mean, the crazy thing is, we have a bank here in Holland, which they like to call in England the Rabo, but they call it in Dutch Rabo, and I think that's Portuguese for arse. So that's the arse bank that you have to go to. And there you go.
Very cool.
Okay, maybe. Yeah.
So so there are lots of.
I think we beat this dead. I think we beat this Christ thing and the Porsche to death.
I'll give you one more thing though about it.
Okay.
Because is there a loss of spirituality and morality that is being represented in things like in these corporate efforts to distance themselves from Jesus Christ, for example, or distance themselves from any sort of religious undertone, or even if you go so far as the Grammys that had that unholy song by Sam Smith where he dressed up like the devil. I mean, is this part of a bigger loss of spirituality and morality?
I think the opposite.
Popular culture.
I think it's the opposite. I think people are making which we should be doing, making up our own minds about what we want to believe, who we want to believe in, etc. Yeah. And what the revolt is, if you will, is against having that single dominant religious belief be the belief. In God we trust, on the dollar bill, right? Right. But that doesn't represent the entire society. That's one group that is saying that only one God can exist, and the other groups are going, well, no, don't believe that, right? So do they have a right to say, actually, no, take that off, because that doesn't represent the whole world, or not? Yeah, on one side you can say, hell with it, doesn't really matter. It doesn't, because I don't believe in it. But it doesn't represent the world that we live in now. There's more global, that isn't, monocular on Christianity's being the only belief.
Well, the other thing, though, is, if I may, is first of all, when it says "in God we trust," the God it's referring to is the Federal Reserve. So let's just get that straight. Right? And I bow to New
The other
York,
God,
which
yeah.
is that's the real God, right? The Federal Reserve. We bow to Mecca 5 times a day. The other part is there were, since the beginning of time, gods with an S, and I think it was about 100 CE, or maybe 200 or 300 CE, where it went from gods to one God. So for just say hundreds of thousands of years, the Sumerian texts talk about the gods. Mesopotamia talks about the gods. The Egyptian, the god. You go through history, it talks about the gods, and then whatever pope came along made it. There's a god. Hence why you had the religious wars, the Crusades. So really, at the end of the day, I think what happens now is maybe because of social media and YouTube and the internet, people can actually read and research a little, which I find hard to believe because anything past 30 seconds. But I think what ends up happening is now people are like, wait a second, maybe there's more to this. The guy in the pointy hat maybe isn't right. This isn't right. So I think there's a lot to it. But I don't think Hollywood's always been no morality, no spirituality. I mean, if you go back to the movies of the 20s, 30s, and stopped in the 40s, there's naked women, there's private parts, there's things going on there that today they would be considered X-rated movies, right? And then all of a sudden, the moral majority got along and they go, we need to rate our movies. And then in the 40s, they started to rate movies, GGP and all this other crap. So I don't think it's any worse than it is. I think today, because of Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it, and all the other crap that's out there, it becomes more prevalent because then people write an article, and back in the day, you had to read a newspaper. Most people don't do that right now. Now you get a Twitter or you get a news flash, and it's like, oh, it's the end of the world. And you're like, oh, that's great, it's the end of the world. Woohoo, great, good to know. And then people talk about it. But back in the day, we didn't have all this, so I would have never seen this article, because it's not going to be in the Financial Times or the Wall Street Journals or the Economist, so I'm not reading it. So it's on just a feed, and I think that's what's doing it. So are we any worse or less than we were 10 years ago or 1,000 years ago? Probably not. We're probably the same. It's just that people are now fed up with the lies, I think, from, if you will, religious establishments. They're all like, this is bullshit. It's kind of like the governments, right? They're just like, this is bullshit. I'm going to believe in what I want to believe. Exactly. And I think that's kind of what's happening. And hence, I'm going to touch on this for a second and then we'll drop it. Why governments are afraid that if they ever said that they know that there's alien life, that would destroy religion and the economies, because people would think now there's something greater than this out there. And then you can't control the public. And that's really what this is.
Get the freedom and the flexibility of remote work in the lucrative tech industry. Bend your life around the world. Bandicoot is the premier course and community for thriving in a remote tech career. Join the revolution today. Bandicoot.com, official partner of the Lost Dollar Business Club. All right.
He keeps forgetting though. I have a finger too, and I can push a button. Anyway, no, but I truly think that's why, to Kurt's point, people are. Some guy dancing as the devil. Are you kidding? Have you ever seen Alice Cooper or Ozzy Osbourne? Or if you go to it's no different. It's just that everyone now has become so pussified. I guess everyone's offended about everything. Grow a pair of balls.
Do you remember
men, women, everybody?
Do you remember the book burnings and the album burnings in the 70s with the Frozen shows and going around just picking music they didn't like or books they didn't like, and all of a sudden it was a thing and it made the news?
How
is this any different?
I don't know.
It's the same. And in the 80s as well, when they didn't like the language, they would put the warning on the things, and then the kids wanted to buy them even more. Yeah. It's like, this has.
That's right.
I remember I got a George Carlin album because my mom said I could get an album. So I was looking at comedy albums because I like comedy. So I got Steve Martin, which was pretty clean. And my mom said, get a couple albums. So I was like, oh, so I got Martin, I got like we already had Lenny Bruce and 2000-year-old man and all this other crap. But then I saw George Carlin and Richard Pryor, and this big warning label say dirty language and blah blah blah. I'm like, well, fuck this, yes. And I picked those two albums up, and I was like, my mom's like, that's fine. And
That's the one.
but yeah, that's
Cheech and
those are the two
Chong.
for me. Yeah, Cheech and Chong.
Yeah.
Their stuff was, but that's what people don't understand. The more you protest, the more the young, well, back in our day, people that were young were like, well, I got to know about it. But I don't think, and it goes back to this other discussion, I don't think kids think today. I don't think
How
that
do we
they're
go
as
from
inquisitive.
how do we go from why companies do these types of things to kids?
Because it's all, because really think about it.
Maybe
a
that's
child-
why they're doing it.
Right, because if I'm a kid and your Porsche ad is in the Rob Report or your Porsche ad is on some video I'm watching, I, as a kid, whether I'm 5 years old or 105, see it. So it has everything, encompasses everything. It's not just it does one thing. And I think that's what people also forget. Like in advertising, even when we do this show, for the couple thousand people that watch it, and then we make a short of it. Some of our shorts get mega views, and all they know of our show is that 1 30-second short. And so when you look at a Porsche ad with the statue that's in Brazil, with or without the statue, and people are making a fuss about it. Now, somebody that doesn't really know Porsche, now they know Porsche. Whether it's good or bad, they know Porsche. So everything leads to something. And I think that's what people forget. Everything's interconnected.
It'll be ironic, of course, if everybody wants to go to Brazil now and spend all the money on traveling to Brazil and spend the money on buying a Porsche.
This particular one was in Lisbon, though. This was in Lisbon.
This was in Lisbon on the bridge, going into Lisbon.
In that case, who cares? It's Lisbon. Why are we discussing it? It's not even important.
We also we're talking. We're going to talk about why Budweiser, decided to do a celebrate. I don't know, 1 year of
transgender
of a transgendered person becoming, a woman or what he wanted to be a woman.
Right.
Yeah. So my only thought is that companies they serve the majority, but they like to appease a vocal minority group, and they do that to get them off their back. And so, okay, we'll acquiesce to your demands. We'll be more inclusive, whatever it is that the group is requesting. Think about kosher assignment to food. How many Jews really require kosher? Very small amount. Yet, why do we have it in orange juice? Who the hell cares?
The Jews that drink orange juice care that it's kosher, and I don't know how you make orange juice kosher.
That's a really good example.
Orange juice.
It's a good example of how a company,
the way it's slaughtered.
Sort of acquiesce to a minority group's demands when it really has no impact. If they didn't put kosher and Jewish people didn't buy it, it would be okay. Fine. We didn't get 2% of the sales, or even less.
I think the argument's in the last thing you said. It's in the sales, because they realized every time it's just like when they started selling certain beauty products or certain health products, and it was just crap. Changed the label to look like it's kind of Afro. It's crap hair, bad for your skin. But it opened up a whole new market, and it made a whole ton of money, billions of dollars for these companies. They were getting zero service, but it's all about the dollar, right?
So you're saying this was a miscalculation on the part of Anheuser-Busch to go support the Dylan Mulvaney crowd.
Yeah,
they lost
know about that.
10% of their 15% of their revenue for Bud Light or something like that.
But you know what? I don't know about that. I mean, their beer is shit anyway, right? So you didn't really lose anything. And the best part was that
making love
they lost their number one light beer spot to Modelo.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
the interesting thing is they go ahead and
making love in a canoe anyway. So.
They sell the sales are going down, yet they sell craft beers, right, which are actually growing. Maybe they need to change management there, because They're
I
thinking,
think in the US you should be investing in orange juice, because I heard this morning that the orange juice price is going to go through the roof. It's going to be worth more than gold.
yeah.
There you go. So
Thanks for
End of the day.
thanks for slowing up the show. So anyway,
and
but
going back to doing good with all the minority things, one of the crazy things is we just had Pride Month here, and so we just had
okay.
the last 2 weeks of that. They had the big Pride thing in Amsterdam, and a lot of criticism from the communities themselves saying, this is all commercial. And to top it all off, the Dutch tax Ministry of Tax decided that they were going to sponsor their own boat. So so all the people who wanted to be on the gay pride who worked for the tax Ministry of Tax, they then had an opportunity to go on their own boat, and of course that's just more promo, isn't it? For for more tax.
Department?
More
For
tax.
the tax
Wow.
department,
Oh
yeah.
God.
So it's like you said, people here are bitching about it. So yeah, it was all started with good intentions to highlight everything and to have a good time, etc., and now everybody's jumping in with their own boats. Police has their own boat, now the tax department, the banks, to
At
So
some
they're
point,
commercializing an otherwise good homegrown event.
right. But
yeah
at some point,
yeah
can't we just and it really is. But at some point, why do we care? I mean, listen,
well, we
everyone's a
don't
human
I don't
being. No, but my
I don't
point is
care.
that we have a parade for this, we have a month for this, we have a day for this. Enough. Why don't we just all worry about making the planet a better place? And if some guy wants to be a
Mm.
transvestite or wants to be whatever this guy is that pissed off the world for Bush, let them. I don't care. It doesn't hurt you to let somebody, if they want to be transgender or trans this or whatever. I literally saw something the other day. A friend sent me a picture of a dog. The dog says, I identify as, and went through these 3 or 4 things, and I was laughing my ass off because that's how ridiculous it is. And I think I said this on the show. I was behind a mega Ford 2500 pickup truck, and he had a sticker on the back of his truck that says, I identify as a Prius. And I laughed my ass off because I thought that was the funniest thing. It's like, enough. It's like, stop.
Trucker
Let's
humor,
just,
trucker humor.
forgetting that. Let's just go back to being a planet. Like, we have so much going on that we need to
Maybe that's
do.
why we
Well, we
need
can't-
the
This is
aliens,
it.
Stephen. Maybe that's
I'm
why
hope-
we need
well,
the aliens to come out.
There's a guy.
Well,
There's a guy from the
they're
CIA
already
who
out.
did it. The guy from the CIA did an interview that said the reason that the government is bringing all this stuff out now is because in the year 2027 there's supposed to be something big happening with them. And I was like, okay, so there you go. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, they're all
We got a
they're all
few
going to buy.
years.
They're going to buy up all the American breweries.
Few years.
So that's what's going to
Well,
happen.
what do you think? To shift gears a little bit, what do you think of the Twitter to X branding shift? Because
get
what
it.
actually happened is they've got a new CEO
Yeah.
who comes from I guess the marketing world. She was doing some other things in clothing, I think it was.
Karl Marx. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and then I mean they're completely auctioning off all the old Twitter stuff. All
Right.
the old Twitter branded stuff. And actually, she said that they're approaching break even, at least, profitability, near profitability.
Did they
Well, I
change it because
wanted to buy that sink that Elon had, but he's taken it home. So he's not
So
telling
here's my
anyone.
question: Did they drop Twitter because Elon goat screwed it so bad that they needed just to rebrand themselves? So the rebrand became X, and that's
No,
really what my question
No,
becomes.
but he said it when
I
he
think
bought it.
no, he wants to have this Uber app.
An Uber app,
called
yeah,
X.
like what they
called
do
X.
in China, actually.
Yeah,
With the
that's where he wants. That's where he wants to go with it.
with
That
the
makes a lot of
WeChat
sense.
Baidu app.
He wants to recreate the WeChat. Have banking. It'll
All in
be the
one
one place you go to do everything. Yeah.
Yes,
And because
He said that
because
from the
the
beginning.
level of the people that are going to use it probably will only be able to sign with an X, it's probably the best place for them to be, I think.
Oh boy. Well, maybe so.
Comments below.
He's
We'll
pissing
see.
me off.
We'll
He's
see what
pissing me
actually
off because
happens
he's
with
taken
it.
my thing, right? He's
What's your
taken
thing?
he's taken my first letter. So Yeah, I'm a little pissed about that.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Yeah, I understand why.
Yeah.
I don't see why they couldn't just. And listen, if someone from Twitter or X or whatever the hell, we keep inviting Elon on. He never shows because he's a pussy. But anyway, but I would really love to understand why, and not some BS you wrote in a newspaper article. Like really, like deep
Mm.
dive. Why you went from Twitter to X? You could have made Twitter WeChat in America and just said
And kept
Twitter's
the
going to
brand.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, you could have kept the brand. I personally think because of all Elon's ridiculous crap that he does daily and says daily, and the trouble he gets in with the SEC daily for between Twitter and Tesla and all this other crap, I think the CEO and the staff there or somebody must have done some sort of a analysis that said we need a different brand, kind of like Facebook went to Meta. I
Mm.
think, for them, I don't think it really helped, but I think that for Twitter, I'm thinking that might be it, is because if we rebrand it as X, if you will, barring Kurt's issue with it, what ends up happening then is when you hear X now, you don't think of Elon Musk. You think of, oh, that's that thing. Like when you think of WeChat, you're not thinking of, if you will, Alibaba and this and that, but you're thinking, oh, that's WeChat. So maybe they rebranded it because they want people to get away from, oh, it's Elon Musk. He's trying to control everything. It's this company called X. And that's how I would look at it.
Well, maybe the X is the sort of thing you get when you look through the lens of your rifle while you're shooting birds. Maybe that was his inspiration.
Okay,
You're
moving
shooting
along.
birds again?
I personally, I think that the whole exercise to me looks like
Exercise.
exercise. Yeah, that they just, with all things that you make toxic through either one name or another, you need another portal to bring it through so that you can appeal to a specific audience. They're probably looking at the people that have the money right now that are willing to spend their disposable income on something like that, and realizing that this branding will appeal to that group. It won't appeal to the old fuddy-duddies, that are in their 60s. It'll, appeal to probably people that are somewhere between their mid-20s and their 40s. And
Hey, 60 is the new 40, mate.
so I've heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that comes to 100, which is like how many X's is that?
Two.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, this is. I mean, this is. You could say
Cool.
too that this was a statement by the new CEO to just make her mark and say we're gonna, because she is saying over time
She's got to be doing it for the
He's
money.
got total
Michael.
control away from Elon, and Elon's just doing the technology. So
Right.
maybe that's
And
what
she
it is.
believes that. Maybe. Yeah, right.
Well,
I just
how many
think
how many things? He's a bit like Trump. I mean, he puts his name on everything that he hasn't even created. So it wouldn't be
Right.
surprising
Oh,
if
you mean
somebody
like
else is
Tesla?
running this.
You mean like Tesla? Like Tesla? Is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah. It wouldn't be surprising that that somebody else is pulling all the strings and he just tags his name onto it.
Yeah.
Oh, one other thing before I forget, because we just mentioned Tesla. So Porsche, because we talked about Porsche before. I hate to bring this up, but Porsche just developed a long-range 800-mile electric battery. I just thought I'd throw that in there since Tesla's battery sucks.
Doesn't work. It doesn't work in a car, but it's great.
No, it does. It works in a little car. It's about this big, and you have a remote control, and you just can drive it in front of your real car.
Yeah.
But anyway, so they just came out with that. So
Well,
we'll see. But
that's
anyway,
great because
That's
it
good.
gives you
That's good.
800 miles. Did you say?
yeah,
That would just about get you from one charging point to another.
Yeah.
in Europe, yes. In America, we
In
have it
Europe.
every 15 feet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd do well in Vegas. It wouldn't do well in Canada.
Yeah.
But yeah,
right.
so on the X thing, I didn't mean to digress, and I was going to say that for Lost and Found, but yeah, it's okay. But on the X thing, I still say to what Kurt said and what I said earlier, it is really a rebranding to take away. When you say Twitter, you think of Elon Musk. When you say X now, you think of nobody. And it's kind of like WeChat. When I say WeChat, I don't really care who owns it, whether it's Baidu or Alibaba. It's just WeChat. And so I think that's if they're trying to do banking and everything.
I have to guess because when people send me cards, they put 3 X's on it. So I have to kind of like guess who it is.
Do you know?
Long day.
I mean, this is a serious business show. Come on.
Very serious.
It's
And I'm
really
in a-
serious, yes.
I'm in a serious mood today.
Oh, I can
Good
tell. Buddy.
comments.
I can
Good
tell.
comments on the rebranding, though. We wish X lots of luck there.
No, we
Lots of
don't.
X's.
We don't wish
I
them
wish-
anything. So,
Well, we
could care
do. Yeah, we
less.
do. We do.
I wish
Yeah,
you'd
we wish.
chosen W.
Yeah,
Oh.
I wish they'd sponsor the show. I mean, you know,
Well, that's why you're
right.
stepping up to
I
them.
mean,
Yeah.
if you really want to take a risk, hey, you know, we could call it the Lost X Business Club, couldn't we? There you
Yeah,
go.
there you
So
go.
we're all out
Done.
there looking for an X. Oh, John's
We
in his
lost
right now.
John. Yeah,
Yeah,
John has
yeah.
to go. He
He's
had
out,
to
yeah.
go to the. He has to, at his age. He has to go to the loo. All
Yeah.
right. What's our next? What's our next topic?
Well, one last thing is related to
Disappearing
related-
Argentinians.
well related to the power of computing, the computing power chips out there. IBM has released a semi-production MEM resistor chip that will reduce the power consumption when doing computation. And the thread of that is they say they're going to lower it for AI because AI is using so much compute power and so much electricity. And by releasing chips like this over time, whenever they come into real mass production, it'll reduce the power usage of these AI systems. But the bigger thing is, what do we do? Are we just going to keep ignoring or just not caring about the power consumption of all these computing platforms, and just keep no environmental concern about it? Just keep building these billion-dollar data centers.
Yes. The answer one word. Yes, we are. And you know
Well,
why?
Yeah.
Because greed is good, and they don't care because what they're looking at is I'm only going to be on this planet for this amount of time, and I need to have a bazillion dollars. And when I die, I don't care. They don't care what happens for their kids. They don't care what happens for anybody. They're just worried about, look at my stock price. My stakeholders and shareholders are happy, so nobody cares. Because if you cared, we wouldn't be doing electric vehicles. We'd be doing something else. We'd be solar.
That's very
free.
true. That's very true.
Can't make money. Can't make money on
They
solar.
make money off of it. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
there's
so
there's the big hoo-ha about the data center. I think somewhere in South America, where Google want to put one up. It's something like 7 million liters a day of
Right.
water this thing's going to gobble up just to keep it cool. Now
Right.
they have a big issue themselves with drinking water. So and you can't use seawater for it or what they call
That's
bruck
right.
water for it because it just eats everything up. So. Yeah, maybe people should be looking at the way of cooling these centers down with seawater. Then it wouldn't be such an environmental issue.
why don't we just go back to what Nikola Tesla came up with, the free energy? Remember the platform he built that
Let's
JP Morgan
well,
used to do?
if the government didn't steal all his research and hide it,
I know, but I'm saying, but that's my point. If you were doing, if JP Morgan wasn't a whore, and he didn't worry about money, and he said this is a bet, allegedly whore, then he could have said, look, we have a tower for free energy. We can make money on all these other products like light bulbs and this and that. Give the energy away. So now, 100+ years later, we have no resources. Basically, we're draining energy. We're draining that. We go through the list. So instead of having solar power, right? Instead of having solar powered cars that maybe you put a little petro in to get them going, and they take the sun and putting a refrigerator, so to speak, that stores the power. No, we do electric. What's electric do? Takes our resources. You could, if you sun's always going to be there. I mean, for the next million years, they say. So why don't we have solar power cars? Why don't and solar power this? The free energy that's in the air, the dark energy that Nikola Tesla found, because you can't make money on that. That's why. So greed, Gordon Gekko, greed is good, but it's okay because we're all going to die. And that's it. Full stop.
Yeah, 2027 is what you keep saying, Steve.
Well, the aliens. Well, we have a
Yeah.
conference later today to discuss if we're speeding up the time because the humans are stupid. So I'll let you know.
Yeah.
It could be
And of
next
course,
time.
I mean, what the people who are watching the show don't know is this is we're completely green. What we're actually doing is we're all pedaling away merrily under our desks
Oh my God.
to
keep
make
all this
sure that
running.
we got enough electricity to keep this running. So
I have Marilyn
yeah,
under my desk pedaling for me. You're correct. Yes,
Yeah.
that is very true.
Yeah.
So,
There you go.
people have to do a show on this free energy. I think, Stephen, a lot of people don't know the work of Tesla and some of the things that he seems to have discovered that now are not well known to the public. So that might be
Read a
a
book.
topic of a future show.
Yeah, read a
Well,
book, people.
I think a lot of the stuff he discovered ended up with patent pending by Mr. Edison. But
Right.
No,
there you go.
actually, a lot. What happened on his death is he passed away, and his neighbors said within 30 minutes of him dying, people from the government showed up, went through his apartment, took all his notebooks, his notes. He had a storage bin somewhere. They took and everything is, if you will, disappeared. But in those notes was how you do the free energy, how you do,
Yeah.
for lack of time, all the stuff that people thought he was crazy, but he was proving to be true. So
And they stored that
took
in
his
Area
stuff.
51, did they? Is that what happened?
I have no idea where they stored it, but if you go to the Freedom of Information Act and ask for Tesla's information, they literally will tell you that they don't have it, and everybody's like, "But you do." It's
Yeah, that's why it's called freedom of information.
right, but it's sort of like the UFO thing. When you ask about something and they're like, "No, it never happened," or whatever, and then you get like the guy from 1976 that kept the FAA tape of the airplane, the JAL airplane going from Seattle to Japan and over Alaska, encountered something the size of like 5 Empire State Buildings that did maneuvers that were impossible. He actually has the radar. He kept the radar tape. They told him to destroy it, and he didn't. And the Japanese pilots have written statements or whatever. But my point is, if you go to the Freedom of Information Act, they don't have that. But this lonely air traffic controller guy has it, and he's been at the National Press Club and whatever. So my point is that because greed is good on our planet, I guess. Which, listen, there's nothing wrong with it. But just think, if you would have gone the way of the ancient Egyptians with their energy, with their pyramids, so to speak, or if you went the way of Tesla, or if you went this other way, you'd be in a utopia now. And you'd be in a utopia where there'd be, and I know people don't like this, an equality. So great, not so, and there'd still be a handful.
Were a very peaceful society for a long time.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I would not for a while. They had their moments. But my point is that there was free energy. They had a better understanding of free energy.
They don't want you to have free energy.
I understand that. That's why you don't have a solar car.
Yeah, we got solar on the roof here, I'm sorry, you're producing too much energy. We don't give it back to us.
Right.
Sorry, that's what you told us to do. You told us to invest in all those Chinese solar panels, which we did, which was supposed to be green, which they're not, they're black. And so we put them all on the roof. We've got all this electricity, they don't want it. Can't deal with it. That's
the point. If you have a solar powered car, how far do you think that can go? Forever. Like there'd be no petrol. You wouldn't need a battery.
Well,
right?
if the sun shines.
No, you store it. If you store it, they call them refrigerators. Is what they store it in. They can store.
But that's the problem. That's the problem, isn't it? Whoever solves that the battery problems, battery saving storage problems, is going to make a fortune.
No, not they. Don't kill them. There's a guy back in the 80s that came up with a car that used cooking grease. He would go to the local restaurant.
Yeah, they still do that.
Stories like that.
He put cooking grease into it, and he was famous in the town he was in. They did news stories on him.
All the dogs loved him.
500 miles an hour, the car would go on like a gallon of cooking grease. Like he figured it out. And he said in an interview with 60 Minutes, he said about a couple months after his fame, he said people from the Department of Energy and agencies he's never heard of came in and took it and said that it was a national security risk because his car could do whatever and like done. Mm-hmm. And so there's lots of stories of people that have developed things to make the planet better, but because it doesn't make somebody rich or because that's it. And listen, that's fine. That's our society. But if you really want to save this planet, but my point is, no, it's fine because we're not changing it. But if you want to save this planet or save whatever, the thinking has to take a 180 pivot yesterday. And if it doesn't, it doesn't matter. Then just be a whore, make as much money as you can, and when you die, you die. And that's it. Well, leave nothing for your kids.
I always find it humorous that you got governments saying that where we got to look at the energy crisis. We got to look at the environment. Got to look at this and that. But yet they're so cozied up to the OPEC countries, right? And they don't want new technology because it's going to piss off their buddies in the OPEC countries. Well, isn't that kind of backwards thinking? For so few people.
Welcome to the world, my friend. Welcome to the world. And with that, let's
Right.
do Lost Dollar
Lost Dollar.
because we can
Are
go
we-
on a tangent for this for 6 hours.
Right. Well,
Lost and found.
Let's go
let's
into it.
tangent.
If you
Let's
like the Lost
tangent.
Dollar Business Club, you should subscribe. If you like it that much, you should also tell a friend of yours. So you should subscribe and like. Also, you should put comments below so we know what you're thinking. Tell us what shows you want to hear. Just help us make it better.
So, who's lost $1 this week, and who's found $1 this week?
Too beautiful. Really quick, everybody. So if you're watching the full Lost Dollar Business Club, this will run. But we also do this as its own show, the Lost and Found, which
Sure.
is 7-8 minutes. So everybody gets that as well. So I've got two really quick. One we already discussed was Porsche
That'll be
coming
a
up
change.
Keep it up, Donut Boy. Hey, who did they lose to again, John? Help me out.
Spain.
Thank you very
2-1.
much. So,
Who cares? It was the Dutch football team. Who cares? I don't.
okay. So anyway,
not-
so
I'm not
Porsche
Dutch.
coming out with a new battery for Go 800 miles. If it
That's a
really
big
can work and do that, that is a game changer. That is that's a win for Porsche and probably for EVs. Saudi Arabia, there's a big article in the FT yesterday, and even in the Economist, that they are spending trillions of dollars now buying every kind of football, everything, whether it be golf with
Yep.
LIV, whether it be football European style. They're now looking at teams in the United States. They've already bought teams in Asia and in Europe. So Saudi is trying to become a player now because they realize that being in sports makes you look good, and you can still dismember people for fun, apparently. So there you go. I don't know if that's a lost
So
and
that's a
found, but
good
it's,
thing. Yeah,
it's,
that's
it's in the middle. That's in the middle with the Saudi sports.
Uh,
Yeah,
All
it's a
right.
tricky one.
Yep.
Well, I got one that's something. Maybe it'll be a found dollar for Amtrak, which is not something that is very common. Amtrak is actually looking into a bullet train, Japanese
Wow.
style bullet train, between Houston and Dallas, which I understand is about 240 miles, and they want to run a bullet train between those two areas because apparently I-45 there is packed all the time, and they want to really reduce the traffic there. And it could take, it could take a long time to do it, but they're
It's
in
America.
studies right now, and I think that'd be great. It would be a great starting point for high speed in the United States.
It'll never happen.
yeah.
Full stop. Are you kidding? It'll never. If we should have had a bullet train when Japan came out with the bullet train.
Right.
I mean, if you've been on those
How many
bullet trains
years
are
ago?
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like 20 years ago or longer. I went on a bullet train. I was like, this is so friggin' cool. That thing just flies at 200 or 300 miles an hour. You're just like, this is the coolest thing in the world. And
Yep.
why we don't have that? Once again, greed is good. And there you go.
And for the distances that you got to cover in the United States, come on, let's get with it.
That'd be cool. You take trains instead of planes. It goes just as fast. So, what do I know? I know nothing. Kurt, what do you have for us today?
First is the loss. I don't know if anybody's ever watched the movie Searching for Sugar Man.
Yeah, he died.
Yeah, he died so at 81. So I mean that's a bit of a loss. It's kind of an oddball one, but very, very interesting story. If you have a chance, check it out.
Yep. There's a documentary about it. There's a documentary about it. Search for Sugar. It's very cool.
It's fantastic.
Yep.
And Bruce 6, the nuclear power plant here in the Candy reactor has just been refurbished and is restarted. So that is a definite win.
Canada's going to blow up the world with nuclear power. Gotta love it.
Yes.
Thank God for those Canucks.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, it's between Dr. Zhivago and the Donut Boy. All right. One of you go. Wait,
All
let's
right.
save Donut Boy for last because we're going to have to hear about some for the cockta whatever. Like, go
All
ahead,
right.
John.
So the CFO of Tesla, a gentleman called Zach Kirkhorn, has left Tesla, and he was with the company about 4 years,
Okay.
and he's leaving with a small fortune of $590 million after 4 years. His base salary, 2 years ago, was about $300,000. So the rest of it is in options and shares. So I think he's done real well. $1.
Pays to be the CFO.
Yeah.
They say you can't take it with you. I think he
Yeah.
used,
Apparently, he
extra.
took it with you. Yeah, he took it with you.
But you can
You
enjoy
can't
it
take it
while you
with you.
can.
Yes, you
Oh,
can.
yes, you can.
Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Mr. David, all right, I'm strapped in. Yes, I am ready. What do you have for us, David? Because I know it's going to be some Kafka crazy thing.
No, it's actually, well, well, two things really. First of
Okay.
all, the fact that Mr. Musk spent $1 million on buying AI.com, which I thought was rather funny. Yeah, considering that must have been a bargain for him, considering what he paid for to buy Twitter. So yeah, that was a bit. I don't know if that's a lost or a found, that one. But for me,
Okay.
the absolute find, because I thought, well, just and I have to say this only in America. It's
There
a
we go.
company called No Snow Yo,
Oh
and
my God, here it
wait
comes.
for it.
Here it
They
comes. I
deliver
know.
they deliver real snow to anywhere in
Oh,
the USA, any day of the week. Their speciality is a wait for it, a snowman kit, um, of which they sell quite a few different sorts of them as well. So you have different snowmen, and the website says, make sure you don't that you buy early and not at the Christmas period, because that's when everybody wants to buy snow.
and with that,
Oh boy, you
we come
can't
to
beat.
another exciting close of our show. So, and people, please, in comments,
Oh, yay.
if you have a topic you want us to talk about, if you want to be a guest, if you actually know something, that would be awesome. Elon, we've asked you at least twice to be on the show. We know you're never going to come, and we know you've never heard of us, but really,
You never know.
if you're
Well,
smoking the ganja with Joe Rogan, you can come on our
That's
show,
right.
and you can
yeah,
you don't have to
and
do
and
anything.
have a donut.
You can have a donut with David. That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, I like
yeah.
that. So, but yeah, but guys, it's always fun. We'll see everybody next Saturday morning, and it's also a
Yeah.
podcast, so you can look at it. So remember, Lost Dollar Business Club and Lost and Found, two different shows. But if you watch all of Lost Dollar Business Club, you can see Lost and Found right after. If not, this goes out as a separate, because we know some of you have a really short attention span. So thank you, everybody, and have a wonderful week and a great weekend. And we'll see you next Saturday. And don't forget to subscribe and like; helps the show out.